have the opportunity to welcome you to our community this morning. I'm going to begin with this week's reading from our book of the month, The Gentle Art of Blessing by Pierre Prodervand, page 58. Put on your hats. Take off your hats, something. When blessing isn't easy. To bless people who have harmed you or with whom you have had difficult relationships is sometimes anything but easy. A friend who read this manuscript before it was published wrote some comments that are worth sharing. And now I'm quoting from the friend. I know by experience that it is anything but easy to bless one's enemy. One day, I decided to bless Rupert, a person at my office, because the situation at work seemed hopeless. Yet, blessing him seemed beyond my abilities. That was really going a bit too far. So I found a way of overcoming this mental block. I blessed him in the perseverance he was showing in teaching me the lesson I needed to learn. And it worked. But I needed to find an entry, so to speak, an entry that was accessible to me. And back to the author's comments. So, just like my friend did, experiment with the art of blessing. Explore it. Be pragmatic. Blessing is not a magic trick, but if you persevere and let the heart speak, forgiving your own resistance, if you persevere and let the heart speak, forgiving your own resistance, the fruits will be manifested as certainly as flowers blossom in springtime. Some great wisdom. I'm going to read through today's affirmation and then I'll invite you to join me. I bless this day and everything in it, calling forth all the good, seen and unseen. I know God's blessing walks with me wherever I go, that I am blessed even as I am a blessing to others, and so it is. Please stand and join me with conviction. I bless this day and everything in it, calling forth all the good, seen and unseen. I know God's blessing walks with me wherever I go, that I am blessed even as I am a blessing to others, and so it is. She got to make a choice about how she was going to be with that news. And you know, she said that she realized the choice was between angry and bitter or set free. Yes? And she said it was really tempting to go to angry and bitter. Because she worked there for a long time. She had a lot of relationships there. She had a long history there. She had a lot of connections there. She was very good at her job, and she actually really liked her job. So she could choose angry and bitter, worried, afraid, scared. Or she could choose to bless what was unfolding and trusting the universe that something wonderful was happening. In other words, she broke into blessing. You see, when life hands us difficult things, we can choose to become angry and bitter, or we can break into blessing. Yes? get laid off, when life lays you off, when someone hurts you, when the boyfriend or the girlfriend or the spouse leaves you, when something happens that feels like pain, when you lose a loved one, when you run into someone that you had a bad relationship with, in fact, they abused you, will you choose anger and bitterness, or will you choose to break into blessing? Well, if you're like me, you might be tempted by anger and bitterness. Yes? But you might also wonder if there is something to this notion that we can lift ourselves in consciousness and bless whatever is happening. In fact, all month long, we've been talking about the gentle art of blessing, haven't we? We talked about blessing as meaning to confer good upon or to confer divine favor upon. When we bless something, we are calling it good, even if its worldly appearance is not. Now, it's easy to bless when somebody's being kind to you, isn't it? It's easy to bless the raise. It's easy to bless the friendly neighbor. What about the not-so-friendly neighbor? It's easy to confer divine good or divine favor upon the things we like. The spiritual practice lies in, can we bless that which feels a little more difficult? How you doing so far? Because last week we talked about, yes, there is a causative factor to the spiritual practice of blessing. It triggers spiritual law, the law of cause and effect, right? Because think of this with my friend. She chose to bless this experience, and she said she got in her car and she was driving home and she was thinking, okay, you know what? They gave me a really nice severance package. That's a blessing. But she didn't know that when she chose to bless this experience. She found that out after she chose to bless this experience. So she's thinking, okay, I got 10 months severance. I'm going to take 3 months off and do nothing. Yeah? That'd be a blessing. If I could read novels for 3 months, I would be a happy camper. If I could read one novel, I'd be a happy camper. I read novels now. That was my self-care thing about 5 years ago. It's like, no. For me to do life well, I need to be reading novels as well as everything else I read. Anyway, so she decided, I'm going to take 3 months off, and then I'll start looking for a job, and then things will unfold however they unfold. I have good experience. I'm a great worker. I'll be able to get a job. Life is good. A week later, her phone rang, and it was a friend. I heard you got laid off. I've got a job for you. And she's like, I don't want to go to work. I was like, what? No, you didn't hear about my plan. But then she thought, well, maybe this is the blessing. And she went to the interview, and she accepted that job. And then she's got this whole chunk of money in the bank, right? And she's drawn a full-time salary, which, by the way, was a higher salary than the one she left. Let's be about the blessing. And so she decides, you know what, I'm going to take half that money and I'm going to remodel my house and do all this work on my house, and I'm going to take a chunk of that money and I'm going to go on this 3-week vacation with my mom and my friends next year. And I'm going to put the rest of that money in my retirement account. So far, she is blessed. Do you see the power of blessing activates the spiritual law? It activates the law of cause and effect. Another way to see it is the law, another way to call it, that is to call it the law of correspondence. The outer corresponds directly to the inner. How I am internally, breathe this one in, corresponds to what I am experiencing out in the world. What? How can that be? Because I don't know about you, but there's a lot of things in the world that don't look very pretty. There's even some things in my immediate experience of life that doesn't look very pretty. Yeah? Last week we talked about what is the spiritual truth of a thing. And the spiritual truth is this realm of a fact is simply the realm of a fact. What is real, what is truth, is in the realm of consciousness. And that realm will take whatever form we give it. The only reason we have an appearance of a lot of not so great stuff in the world is so many of us are giving it form with our consciousness. If you were in the workshop last week, this is what we talked about, right? Wednesday night? We give our energy and our consciousness and our awareness to all the things that aren't working, and we do not pay attention to the good. We do not pay attention to the truth that we create our experience of things. Now, let me be clear. We don't necessarily create what happens, right? Frankly, we're not that powerful. We do create how we respond to what happens. We get to choose to break into blessing, even in the face of difficult times. And I guarantee you it will change your experience of the difficult time. See, here's the thing about the law of correspondence. How many of you have ever had anybody say to you, I don't even know what it would be, something that you took offense at, or something that made you feel bad? Did you hear what I just said? Can anybody say anything to you that makes you feel bad? You choose to feel bad. The inner corresponds to the outer. If somebody says something that brings up bad feelings in you, those feelings were already in you. What you're showing the world when you beat yourself up for what somebody else said or did, you're showing the world what you believe about you. Oh, I hate that part. Emma Curtis Hopkins says, if you want to know what you believe, look at your results. And I hate to tell you this, but we all know what you believe. And I really hate to say this part, you all know what I believe. Yikes. Because, sometimes we don't know what we don't know about our own lives, right? We can't see ourselves. Do you know what I'm saying? And so that's one of the great reasons to be in spiritual community, so that we can reflect back to each other, so we can challenge each other to learn and grow and evolve in our own self-concept. So get yourself active in spiritual community. When your response is, I'm bad or I'm wrong, that's about what you believe about you. It's not about what happened. It would have been really easy for my friend when she got laid off to make that mean something about her and her capability. Oh, they don't love me. They don't want me. I'm not okay. I'm not good enough. Somehow I did a terrible job. They hate me. That would have been really easy for her to do. But she understood the law of correspondence. She understood that we experience the world how we believe the world is. So let's choose to become more conscious and believe something good about the world. The state of your life corresponds to the state of your consciousness. And let me just say this, the state of our world corresponds to the state of our consciousness. Things aren't going well in the world. We have to look at us. And what do we like to do? Blame everybody else. It's that politician or that leader or that teacher or that bad person, and we are just showing the world what we believe. It really is all about you. And that's the good news and the bad news, because what it means is I am responsible for how I experience my life. And sometimes I really don't like that part. The good news about that part is that what I'm responsible for, I can change, right? So if I'm suffering, and it's you out there who are causing my suffering, it's never going to change, right? If I'm suffering, and I recognize and I stand in the truth, capital T truth, that the law of correspondence is in effect and I am responsible for how I'm experiencing the world, then suddenly I have the power to do something different and experience the world differently, don't I? And you shall know the truth, and the truth will set you free. You become free to live a fully emboldened life, the life that God intended you to live. What? She said God. Yes, she did. Sometimes we forget that the one life is the reason we're here. The one life is the source of all life. So, anybody in this room in resistance to this idea? Anybody going, no, no, I get it. Me too. I couldn't possibly be responsible for how I respond to people who do bad in the world. I couldn't possibly be responsible on a consciousness level for all the things that we call bad that are unfolding in the world. Remember last week, last week, Jesus said, my task, the reason I am here, is to bear witness to truth. And you know what? He died. He came to bear witness to truth, and it cost him his life. But he did not forfeit the truth. And I told you last week, when he said that, Pilate said, come on, guy, what are you doing? And he said, my task is to bear witness to truth. And what did Pilate say? What is truth? Don't be like Pilate. Ask, what is truth? Let me wrestle with this a little bit. Let me practice. Remember the reading today said, be pragmatic, experiment, practice. Let's see if I changed my mind, if I would experience the world differently. If you don't, you can go back to the old way. You can go back to bitterness and anger. That's okay. But try blessing everything for a week. Try blessing your most hurtful experiences for a week and see if you don't expand and grow. Wrestle with the truth. Don't just throw it in the trash like Pilate did. Jesus came to bear witness to the truth, and so did you. Bear witness to spiritual truth in your life and see what happens. And you know what? The old painful parts of you will die and fade away into the nothingness from which they came, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you what? Free. You want to be free? So the real question to ask during these hard times, sitting in the office, your boss and the HR journalist are sitting in front of you and saying, you know what? This job that you thought you were going to have till you're retired, it's out. What's the real question to ask? Oh, wow. That's interesting. What is mine to learn? What do I need to learn? What truth do I need to bear witness to in order to be at peace with this experience and be generative of love and positivity and beauty and joy in the world? What is mine to learn? We've talked about this before. We're here to learn and grow. That's it. If you are fully actualized, you don't need to be here anymore. If you're here, you have something to learn. Everything that unfolds in our lives is here to evolve us. And let me tell you, life is relentless. I am really sorry to say that. But it will come for you, and it will come for you, and it will come for you until you learn what it is you are here to learn. Don't be like Pilate. Wrestle with it. Be present to it. Ask the tough questions. What am I to learn? What is mine to know? What is mine to be? In the face of this experience of life, you see, love and self-love is our best defense. It's funny, isn't it? Because sometimes we think, well, love is kind of weak, but it's really the thing. Praderband calls love our armor. He says that blessing envelops us in armor. Love envelops us in armor. On page 63, he says somewhere, Blessing those who attack us in any manner, in word or in deed, truly constitutes an impenetrable armor and prevents the arrows aimed at us from wounding us inside, even if we are touched physically. For the minute we are clothed with love, such blessings express we are no longer at the mercy of outside circumstances, people, forces, or events. We bear witness to the spiritual truth of the greatest commandment, and the greatest commandment is love. It supports us in our freedom. It frees us from our false ideas, and it frees those around us from their false ideas about us. Because what happens when I come up against you in anger, and we're both mad now, right? Please, I'm just proving to you what you already think about me. Right? But what if, in the face of your anger, I was able to show up as love? What if I was able to put on the love armor? And suddenly you don't know what to do. What? What? She's not pushing back? What? See, and then they become free to show up differently, don't they? Because we've freed them from our false ideas of them. See, when we get locked into this thing about abuser and victim, abuser and victim, abuser and victim, abuser and victim, and please hear me, I'm not saying we are not victimized. There are those of us who have been victimized at times in our lives. But we don't need to let that lock us into a pattern. We don't need to allow that to dictate how we live the rest of our lives. The spiritual truth of you is you are perfect, whole, and complete right now. That's the spiritual truth of me. And when we can see and bear witness to the spiritual truth of another, they suddenly are free to show up differently, and we are free to show up differently. And the more we push and anger and fight and blah, 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 the worse things are getting, right? Have you made anybody wrong in your language this week? Have you blamed anybody for anything? Have you read the newspaper and said, wah, 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 wah? Have you listened to the news and expressed judgments about others? Give them the freedom to do something different. They have to continue to push back as long as we're pushing on them. We talked about this Wednesday night. Has it ever helped when you were angry for someone to tell you to calm down? Don't tell me to calm down. Because you ain't seen nothing yet. Right? Does it help when you're hurting for somebody to say, don't hurt? No. Do you see this pushing, making people wrong, does not work. It creates more of itself because of the law of correspondence. What is happening in consciousness is what we experience out in the world, so stop. Love for myself and for others. This is the greatest commandment. Love God. Love God. And you know, what is God? Perfect, whole, and complete, infinite love, the power of the presence, the living one, the essence of the universe, the energetic presence, in, through, and as all things. Love that. And then, love everybody in it, which is what it is. And just because you're in it too, that means you have to love you too. Did you hear that part? And this becomes our armor. And then we can begin to anchor in the notion that wrestling with the truth of a situation or a person and coming to a place of blessing sets us free. And we can begin to remember the lesson, not the pain. It is important to feel the pain. Yes? And if you have something that you need to really seriously feel and process in a way that's safe, I encourage you and I urge you to do that. But if you're like me, you want to do that for 10 or 15 years. And you know what? By the time I was about 30, I was exhausted. You know what I'm saying? The pain was exhausting me. It's time to move beyond the pain. Feel your pain, absolutely. Process it. It's healthy. When you have a broken leg, you don't just try and walk around on it. You go to the doctor, you get it set, you take some pain meds, in a few weeks it's better, right? So feel the pain, get it healed, do the work, wrestle with it, get better, move through it, anchor in love. Love for yourself, love for others, love for the spiritual truth. Now, if you're like me, you're probably saying about now, yeah, but shouldn't they suffer for hurting me? Yeah? I know. It's like, no, I want them to suffer. They hurt me. I suffered. They should suffer too. You know, I'm going to share this one section from the book. It's on page 69. And it's a little bit long, but it's I could not say it this well. So just, hear this. He says, but, one might object, what about those who consciously plan evil? We can learn to bless them in their integrity, which is the very quality they most need to express and seem to lack. Because evil is sometimes the highest idea of good that some people have. Sometimes it's the best they can do. It's the best they know. Sometimes we behave out of our woundedness and our fear and our anger, and we don't know any better. He goes on to say, each one at each moment is at his or her highest level of consciousness. You just don't know better. This key insight is one of the most powerful tools around to liberate us from judging others. For instance, I love this example. The highest sense of right for a sports champion who is aware that the stimulants he is taking are illegal may be that winning at all costs is the most important pursuit. For this person, winning at all costs might be more important than integrity. It represents this person's ultimate value. However, no real good can ever be achieved at the cost of another human being. Even the weapons trader, the dictator, or the person dealing in child pornography has a vision of the universe that makes them erroneously believe that they can win at the cost of others losing. If this person had a more progressive vision of things, they would rapidly abandon their aggressive behavior. Taught that the only way some of us win is if others lose. Now we know that is not the truth. We know it in this room. But we don't necessarily know it in the world, and we certainly don't know it collectively. If you look at our collective results, remember the law of correspondence, what's happening out there is a lot of losers and a few winners, right? So collectively, we do not understand that that's not the highest idea, that there is a higher notion of oneness and unity, and the power and the presence and the love of God everywhere, expressing everywhere, that there is an abundance, there is no lack, there is no need to be fearful. As we anchor in the spiritual truth of love, nobody needs to suffer because I suffered. When I was becoming a minister, there were a lot of hoops, right? And some of them were very important hoops. I don't want to minimize. Some of the hoops were really important. But during the one portion of my training, they were looking at streamlining some of the hoops. And do you know one of the most common comments from the older ministers? Well, I had to do it. They should have to do it too. Right? We do that, don't we? Well, I had to do it. You should have to do it too. Yeah? No, we want to do what is highest and best for everyone. Reconciliation is what leads to true healing. And reconciliation requires that we be able to see the spiritual truth of everyone, even those who have hurt us, that they too are created in the image and likeness of the infinite, that they too are perfect, whole, and complete. They just don't know it yet. We must embrace every single person, even the ones who have hurt us, in the spiritual truth of love, in knowing that they too belong to God, that we're not special, you guys. Everybody's special. Everybody belongs to God. Everybody belongs to the infinite mind. Everything is created perfect, whole, complete right now. It's just some of us have forgotten. In fact, all of us have forgotten to some degree or other, because remember what I said about if there's nothing else for us to learn, we don't need to be here anymore? Right? So the task, the spiritual evolution, is about remembering the spiritual truth of us and of everyone we see, even those that we would be tempted to judge harshly. You see, love moves us forward. And life will not let go of providing us experiences that are hard to forgive until we forgive. Do you hear that? Life is inexorable. It will continue to give you difficult experiences as long as you believe they are difficult. But when we can anchor in love, when we can anchor in the spiritual truth, even of the person who's making my life difficult, life will let go because I've mastered the lesson, and oh shoot, now I have to move on to the next one. But what else would you be doing? You're here. Bear witness to the truth. Wrestle with the truth. Be willing to evolve and learn and grow. So shall we seal this message with a little meditation? I want to invite you into an exercise. As you bring your attention to your breath, feel your breath moving in and out of your body. And anchoring your awareness in your heart, breathing into your heart. And begin to feel your heart well up with love. Recognize and remember the spiritual truth. You are the embodiment of love. You are created in the image and likeness of the living one, the loving one, the thing that is infinite love. And so love is right where you are. And as your heart begins to spill over with love, imagine in your mind, bring into your mind the image of all those who have ever hurt you. All those who have ever harmed you. Begin to see their faces or their images, or simply bring an awareness of them into your mind. And as you do that, begin to imagine that they are blessing you. Begin to imagine that they are holding you in the light of love. Begin to imagine that the spiritual truth of who they are is shining forth in the light of gratitude and love for you. For this is the spiritual truth. Our souls are deep and rich friends. And from this awareness, from this place, feel your heart well up with loving forgiveness. As you return the blessing, as you confer good upon, as you bless them from a place of love, giving thanks for all you have learned, giving thanks for the opportunity to wrestle with truth, giving thanks for the awareness that something greater than we are is directing this divine dance, and we engage with love and with joy and with a sense of adventure as we embrace the conscious spiritual path, simply saying yes. And now give thanks to these souls for the richness and the awareness they have brought to your life this day. Give thanks for the further opening to the infinite as it makes itself more and more fully known as you. Give thanks for the love that wells up from the center of your being, and that you are a willing and an active instrument for this love. As you commit in your heart to live eternally from this place, give thanks. Take the sacred breath with me. I close this message with a grateful heart, knowing that we have been transformed by the renewing of our minds, knowing that the world is transformed by our willingness to tell and know and be truth. I call it good and very good, and so it is. Amen.